On May 2, 2011, 24 members of the U.S. Navy SEAL Team 6 aboard Black Hawk helicopters quickly surrounded a 3-story house in the mountainous region of Pakistan. Upon reaching the 3rd floor, they clearly saw a familiar figure hiding behind a group of women, the man branded as the most wanted individual of that time, OSAMA bin Laden. Only 2 things could happen. They would arrest him alive, or they would end his evil deeds at that very moment. How did they accomplish this mission without the knowledge of the Pakistani government? And how did they manage to enter this heavily guarded building? This was still within the territory of rebels and terrorists who recognize no law. This is the true story of the brutal operation of the U.S. Navy SEAL Team 6, regarded as one of the most dangerous and daring missions in the history of the United States. Come on, let us begin. The CIA, or Central Intelligence Agency of the United States, was at the forefront of tracking and planning the capture of Osama bin Laden. However, after 10 years and several attempted operations, it seemed that luck was on bin Laden's side, and the agency failed to find even the slightest trace of him, not even his shadow. But when 2010 arrived, the tide began to change. According to informants and leads from the U.S. government during that year, a compound in Abbottabad, Pakistan, was allegedly being used as his hideout. Abbottabad is located in a mountainous area of Pakistan and is known as a stronghold of terrorists who recognize no government authority. The U.S. Army wasted no time. They immediately conducted surveillance footage of the area and studied the most effective way to infiltrate this establishment. However, nothing came easy. The compound was deep within enemy territory and was filled with terrorist guards. Gathering intelligence or information was not easy. The U.S. government relied on information supplied by their local collaborators in the area. They spied on the building until they obtained every detail about its structure, but the information they gathered was still not enough. One of the missing pieces was actual footage of Osama entering or leaving the building. Everything remained speculation and assumptions. But not long after intensive investigation and more aggressive espionage, the U.S. government finally confirmed that Osama was indeed hiding there, and it was time to act. On April 29, 2010, then U.S. President Obama was briefed about the operation. Despite a few opinions opposing his decision, he still gave his approval and officially named the operation Operation Neptune Spear. Operation Neptune Spear was carried out by the U.S. Navy SEAL Team 6, an elite force of Navy SEALs. This group is regarded as the best of the best and is trusted with highly classified operations of the U.S. government, such as hostage rescues, espionage, counter-terrorism, assaults on terrorist infrastructures, and direct pursuit of the most dangerous enemies of the United States, such as their current top priority, Osama bin Laden. Capture or kill, this was the primary objective of SEAL Team 6. The U.S. government considered many strategies on how to attack bin Laden and his hideout. One obvious option was a joint military operation between the U.S. and Pakistani governments. However, the Pakistani government was known for not always agreeing with the actions of other countries, especially those of the United States. Thus, the U.S. scrapped this idea for fear that the plan might be compromised. Furthermore, if the operation proceeded, the Pakistani government or a spy within it might tip off bin Laden. Another strategy considered by the U.S. government was to use stealth bomber planes to bomb and pulverize bin Laden along with the building where he was hiding. However, this idea was quickly discarded because, aside from lacking concrete evidence and certainty that bin Laden would be hit, civilians could also be harmed in such an operation. So, the U.S. government decided to go old school or traditional in their attack, physically infiltrating the building. Through the strength and skill of SEAL Team 6, SEAL Team 6 would fly to Abbottabad, Pakistan aboard modified Black Hawk helicopters designed to be quiet and evade enemy radar. The Pakistani military had been trained by U.S. troops, so the Americans were confident they could carry out the operation without drawing attention. The goal was to reach the compound without being detected or confronting Pakistani forces. After capturing or neutralizing the target, they would immediately fly back to their headquarters. On May 1st, at 1:22 in the morning, President Obama gave the signal to begin Operation Neptune Spear. For 2 hours, the president and his national security team watched the operation through drone feeds. To prevent the mission involving 24 members of SEAL Team 6 from being classified as a military operation, control was temporarily transferred to the CIA. Every minute was critical. Aside from SEAL Team 6, there were 79 commandos involved in the raid. Some were stationed aboard 2 Chinook helicopters at the Afghanistan-Pakistan border, ready to provide reinforcement if needed. Aside from weapons, SEAL Team 6 had a secret weapon, a dog. The dog, named Cairo, was trained to alert the team and signal any sudden activity. He could detect people approaching or escaping the compound. Everything had to be precise and alert. One wrong move could cost many lives. At 3:30 in the morning, the team arrived in Abbottabad, Pakistan, aboard Black Hawk helicopters. From the start, SEAL Team 6 encountered misfortune when one of the Black Hawk helicopters experienced a malfunction due to bad weather. It wobbled and crash-landed. No SEALs or crew members were injured, but because of this incident, they had to act quickly. The soldiers wasted no time. They immediately formed up, and the SEAL explosives team led the raid on the building. They needed to surprise those inside, so they would have no chance to prepare a counterattack. At 3:33 in the morning, all the doors of the building were blown open by the explosives team. After creating entry points, SEAL Team 6 and its crew rushed inside. On the first floor, however, Osama bin Laden was nowhere to be found, and there was no resistance. They saw only 2 men inside one of the rooms. They detained them and continued the operation. On each floor, there were small groups of children. The families of bin Laden's terrorist associates lived there as well. They seemed indifferent to the danger they were in, so the team first secured the innocent children before proceeding upstairs. At 3:35 in the morning, gunfire erupted between both sides. There are 2 versions of what happened during this time. According to SEAL Mark Owen, as written in his book, they encountered bin Laden's courier, Abu Ahmed al-Kuwaiti. Although Abu Ahmed reportedly wounded one of Owen's teammates, they managed to take him down. Intelligence sources stated that after cutting off power to the compound, the team eliminated Abu Ahmed, who was unable to return fire. Despite the conflicting reports, one thing was clear at that moment. They had not yet reached bin Laden. At 3:37 in the morning, the exchange of gunfire continued between bin Laden's group and SEAL Team 6. With every passing second, the action intensified. With every pull of the trigger, tension inside the compound rose. The number of enemy terrorists grew thinner. Those not killed were captured. As they moved upward through the 3-story house, signs grew stronger that bin Laden was indeed there, especially when U.S. troops encountered his son. At 3:39 in the morning, U.S. troops began clearing the 3rd floor. There they finally saw Osama bin Laden, wearing the white tunic commonly seen in his videos. He was caught attempting to escape through a window. SEAL Team 6 wasted no time and immediately fired at Osama, wounding him. After being hit, he ran into a room. The SEALs followed and found several female relatives, including his wives. One wife aggressively charged at the team and was shot to injure her. She was pulled aside, and the team continued toward bin Laden. With no escape left, bin Laden was cornered by SEAL Team 6. What happened next has 2 versions. According to Matt Bissonette, bin Laden was already severely wounded during the firefight, and his wives were protecting him. The SEALs acted under the assumption that one of the women could be a suicide bomber. They moved the women aside and approached the critically wounded bin Laden. Given his condition, they shot him and ended the mission. Another version came from Robert J. O'Neill, the first person to publicly identify himself as part of Operation Neptune Spear. His account was more dramatic. He claimed that bin Laden used one of his wives as a human shield, prompting him to shoot bin Laden twice in the forehead, fully neutralizing the Al-Qaeda leader. Regardless of the version, Operation Neptune Spear was successful. Osama bin Laden, long hunted, was finally found and killed. The SEALs radioed the message, "For God and country, Geronimo," to signal mission success. The operation lasted only 15 minutes. No U.S. personnel were killed or seriously injured. When President Obama received confirmation, he told the White House, "We got him," but it was not over yet. At 3:55, SEAL team members lowered bin Laden's body and secured it. A rapid cleanup operation followed, as the compound could contain valuable terrorist intelligence. They searched every room and recovered only 1 rifle and 1 pistol. Bin Laden's camp had not expected a battle. As for the captured terrorists and their families, the plan did not include taking the women and children. They were restrained carefully and with dignity so Pakistani forces could handle them upon arrival. At 4:05 in the morning, it was time for their getaway. After securing information, evidence, and bin Laden's body, they boarded the remaining Black Hawk helicopter. U.S. citizens would soon celebrate the news. However, the operation was unauthorized by the Pakistani government, which would certainly not be pleased to learn that a foreign power had intervened on its soil. At 4:08 in the morning, before leaving Pakistan, the crashed Black Hawk helicopter was rigged with explosives and destroyed to prevent its technology from being used by terrorists. At 7:01 in the morning, Because bin Laden was known for using doubles to fake his death, the White House waited for DNA confirmation from the SEALs, now based in USES-controlled Afghanistan, before making an official statement. On May 1st, at 11:30 in the evening, President Barack Obama addressed the nation on television to announce the results of Operation Neptune Spear. After the celebrations, one unfinished issue remained: what to do with bin Laden's body. No country wanted to bury the terrorist on its soil. Even Pakistan and Afghanistan, where he hid, wanted no part of it. Cremation was not an option, as it is forbidden in Islamic tradition. Despite being labeled a terrorist, the US government still chose to respect his faith. The body was taken aboard the aircraft carrier Carl Vinson. The US consulted Saudi Arabia, bin Laden's country of citizenship, regarding the disposal of his remains. Saudi Arabia responded that they had no concern over what the US did, as long as it did not become their problem. Approval was given for burial at sea with Islamic rites. Bin Laden's body was wrapped in a white shroud and weighted with chains placed on a wooden board before being lowered into the sea, to prevent his supporters from creating a shrine. May the bitterness and pain caused by his actions be buried with him in the depths of the ocean. When Pakistan learned of the unauthorized operation, debates, disputes, and legal issues followed. While bin Laden received what many believed was justice for his terror and the deaths of innocents, one question remained: if the US could do this in another country, could other countries do the same to them? This question would provoke long and complex discussions in international courts. Whatever the intentions of nations may be, one thing is certain: the hope that no one will follow in bin Laden's footsteps, so that the world may live in peace and safety.